Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard Hustle Podcast. Our next guest, Robert, coming from Learning LA. Robert, can you kind of just talk about what is Learning LA for those that never have heard of it before?
So Learn LA is actually the organizational name is Learn, and we had to use Learn LA as our web address because there was another Learn entity here in California, so we had to use that. So Learn is a DBA. Our legal name is the Rio Hondo Education Consortium, and people were confusing us with the college, the community college here. So we chose Learn. It was straightforward. We're an educational agency. We started as a college access agency working in districts of high need to kind of get resources to students and help them make decisions about what they wanted to do post-secondary education.
Love it, man. And your track record is this is not the only thing you've done, right? You've done a couple of different things. You've gone from Boyle Heights to Berkeley to building Learn LA. That's journey that started long before your first classroom. What was it like growing up in Boyle Heights, man, and then making that leap to Berkeley?
Growing up in Boyle Heights, it's very formative. It was a I mean, I date myself here, but uh, communities change. It's largely a Latino community. It was then, but it was much more diverse, and even more so when my mother grew up there, and when my grandfather was growing up there. Um, so it was a working class community. My dad was a welder. My mom worked for the schools, and yeah, it really shaped who I was and kind of my view of the world. Leaving to go to a suburban high school where we eventually moved to, not far from there, was a good kind of place to cut your teeth on getting ready to leave. The population was largely non-white. I mean, non people of color, and it was less of a mixture of other folks, but it was good to be in that arena. And then when I left for college, again, a little bit of the culture shock was softened because of that experience, and but still a culture shock. Yeah.
Yeah, and like most that probably go from where you spent most of your time to being on the outside of that world, you probably question yourself whether you belong there, and how did you kind of push through that self doubt, because it happens to most of us, right? We kind of go through that self doubt, the imposter syndrome. If you can kind of talk to people on how you were able to overcome that.
Yeah. I was going to mention that when I was just talking, because that definitely was something that was an issue for me. There were a lot of things that I liked to do that were fairly mainstream, things that kids like to do.
Hmm.
It's just that um, I, it was really kind of trying to fit into the communities that I hadn't grown up in.
Yeah.
Sitting in classrooms with people who I felt were sometimes better prepared. At least that was my perception, and kind of working within that to be in that community, and then trying to find a community that I was familiar with. That was
Hmm.
difficult. Um, and I should mention that I'm Latino, but I'm a generational Latino from Boyle Heights. So that's different from a more recent immigrant.
Hmm.
And so there were other students that were there that were recent immigrants, and so that you know it's about, yeah. It was difficult because that was it's not that I didn't fit in, but it was different.
Yeah. No, I mean, anytime that you got to get uncomfortable, it's a challenge, right? It's different, and it's the resilience that we have, and you had so much resilience, because that in itself could kind of make people want to quit easy, right? You just feel like you don't fit in. You're trying everything. You're finding trying to find your circle. Maybe you can't find that circle that you're very comfortable with, so you do other different things. Do you feel that that moment in your life taught you resilience?
I think that moment in my life showed the resilience I brought to the table and was maybe untested to that degree,
Hmm.
um, and certainly helped me to develop that and grow it. Um, I almost laughed a couple of times. I mean, I literally, I wrote a piece that came out in my alumni magazine, California Magazine, and it's called Lessons in Life. But I lived in this old Volkswagen that I bought for $200 and for about an academic year
Wow.
because I refused to go home and I didn't want to ask my dad for money. I saw how hard it worked. They both worked, and I thought, now I could do this. And at first, I thought, hey, it's like camping, and it quickly became, no, it's not. But I hope people don't have to do that. And we work with our students to make sure that we get them the resources they need to do. But boy, that taught me a hell of a lot about myself.
It does, man. And sometimes it happens for the right reasons. Like I remember in a time kind of I wouldn't say similar to you, but already living on my own. I left home at 18 years old, and with a mindset of never going back, right? And really the reason I left was because of this lifestyle that I was living. All the feelings that I encountered as a youth, and just wanting to explore life on my own.
Mm.
And I remember at a time where time was getting, life was getting challenging. And at this point, I'm in my early 20s. I got a girlfriend, and I remember talking to my mom, and my mom saying, "Hey, you can move back in anytime." To her, looking at her, and says, "You taught me how to be a man. I'm never going back. I'm gonna figure it out." And that's just the mindset that I had, was to figure it out. And sometimes our life experiences, even before that moment, my life experience was always figuring it out, and for the right reasons, man. Because now we can tell the story, and there's so many people that are going to be just like us, Robert, that leave their backyard and go somewhere bigger and somewhere where they see better. And in reality, we're all just humans. We're all just trying to figure it out. And it's sometimes through figuring it out, you get that flip to switch. And it's really what happened to you, man. Tutoring kids in Oakland really flipped the switch from law school to teaching. Can we talk a little bit about that, man? This wasn't your trajectory. This is not what you were going to be doing, but here we are.
Yeah, I initially went to Berkeley. I wanted to write, and and when I thought about wanting to do that, I thought, well, um, I could best put that to use. I would go to law school. So, end of that final year, I managed to get into an apartment, and I came home, and uh, was going to get a job, and then was going to go back. I got accepted to law school, and uh, my my sister's old boyfriend said, "Hey, why don't you get a job with?" I'm not going to name the district. With this, it's a really big district in LA. And why don't you get this, into a job? They're doing this internship program, um, and I said, well, I'm not going to be here next year. And he goes, well, but they'll pay you if you get in. They'll pay you, and then you just leave and go to school. And I thought, gosh, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, I wound up doing it, and then they was taking some classes at Cal State LA, and it just interested my pig, and I thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna defer a year and try this and make more money and go back in. And after that first year, I just fell in love with it, and I haven't looked
Wow.
back. And it was in Boyle Heights, and I still keep in touch with a lot of these students who have like families of their own and kids that are going off to college and things like this. It just again, um, but that led me down this path of seeing a need, kind of teaching myself grant writing, and trying to find money and develop programs where there weren't any to provide a resource, and eventually led me to where I am now.
And you talk about just going beyond the classroom to fill in the gaps for the kids. Do you have a story that resonates with you when we talk about filling the gap for those kids?
Yeah, when I would teach, I would always, there were, I remember starting, which is commonplace everywhere now. It's just like, hey, here's a place for you to come after school. I
Hmm.
would take a break and then I would come back and then I would run these tutoring sessions and provide them with a place to be. And then I got some donations and we'd have snacks and they would be there till about 5 or 6 until they could go home and actually have a place to be. And I remember I remember thinking, if I could just be outside the classroom, I could do so much more. And then I wound up getting a job, leaving Los Angeles and going to San Francisco to be the first director for the I Have a Dream Foundation in San Francisco. And I could remember working with these kids and developing a program for them after school. And I kept thinking, God, like, so what are you doing in the classroom? This, that. And I remember thinking, if I could just be in the classroom, I could do so much more. And I think it was a little bit of both. You really need to know what's happening in the school, and then you need to really work to support that. Not do anything different, but just to support what they're actually doing in the classroom, support the teachers, support the mission and the vision of the school. And that's what we try to do here at L.E.A.R.N.
I, so amazing, man. I think what you've been able to do, right, in this lifetime and continue to do. You just talked about the classroom and wanting to do more outside the four walls, which led you into the nonprofit leadership. What carried, or what did you carry with you from those teaching experiences? Is it the working alongside these kids and seeing that need? Is it more on the way that we were pouring into our youth? Like, what was your mindset on leaving to the nonprofit world?
I think it was really about um, need and um, and working to provide something that will get them to the next level. I remember being down here on the east side and thinking, these are bright kids, and you can't unsee what you've already seen. Kind of like Plato's allegory. The guy leaves the cave and he's like, whoa, and he sees the world. And he comes back, and the society that lives in a cave, they're like, hey, you know what? We're just not all just shadows, and we don't really just look like this. There's a big world out there. Everybody kind of like, okay, yeah, right, buddy. And I wanted I wanted these kids to see more than just the community they came from. Not because it was bad, because I thought that they had a lot to offer, and that community taught them a lot, and I wanted to challenge them to put that to use in another setting. And I did the same. So I encouraged them to look outside their communities, especially the high school students looking at schools. Hey, leave your community. I just really think, stretch, grow. That's going to be better for you. And and that was the big thing. I felt like that became a mantra. For me, it was just like, let's grow. Let's just get out of your community and see. Come back to your community and a different person than when you left, and not to leave it and just leave it behind, but to leave it and come back and be a contributor to it. So
Yeah. Well, it's the space I'm in now, man. I don't even know how the heck I got here sometimes, Robert. Where I become the president of my old high school's foundation, a school that I barely graduated from, a school that I remember the counselor telling me, Efrain, you might as well just get a 9 to 5 job. School is not for you. right? And here I am where I can come back and really pour into them. And a child that was at one point in high school going through sexual abuse, that didn't understand adoption to the way that he understands it, or at least didn't appreciate the adoption and my mom that raised me and all these different things. And I come back really to tell the story that it doesn't matter where you're at today. That doesn't have to be your tomorrow, right? That someone may be writing your story today, but at some point you take that pencil and you write your own story. And the life is going to be lifing, Robert. You're going to have experience in your life that are going to bring you down, that are going to damn near break you. And we have to then rebuild ourselves back to become the leader and even better than when we fell. So I love it. I love that you were never selfish. You realized it was never about Robert, but about the future, about every single person that he's going to share his story with. And now look what you've been able to do, man. You're leading this organization. Can we talk more about the organization? Like how many students now are you impacting?
So we work at 5 districts here in eastern Los Angeles County, from
Hmm.
Pomona to Whittier to El Monte to La Mirada. And we start with, we go from K-12. So sometime back while we were doing the college access, there was a law passed here in California which allowed for after school funding to be locked in. And so we were asked to recreate the after school portion of what we do. So now we serve after school for kinder through 12, but we do have a focus on trying to, again, really work with the district. No, none of our programs really look the same because every district and community is different. So we try to figure out what it is that they need. We have meetings around that. And then we will serve several thousand youth daily, and then work to provide them the necessary services, that these state grants mandate. So, we need to provide an enrichment piece, um, a recreational piece. We have to provide a healthy snack. So even our recreation piece, we just don't roll the balls out. We develop leagues for them, and we make sure that our coaches are trained. Our number one thing is we want to make sure that the kids are having fun. That this isn't the training ground for the next Bill Belichick. That they want to come in and just yell at kids and be win-win-win, but that they're learning something and having fun.
Yeah. I love this, man. And what do you think now with just technology and innovation just growing so rapidly, man, from when we were in school and to where we're at now? Everyone's kind of facing this AI journey, and respectfully so. I don't ever think that it you can take away the interaction from a teacher to a student. That human connection is everything. And I was actually talking to another leader. It's like, teachers, especially when you hire them from the community that they teach in, they understand these students and they can speak to them at a level that AI would never be able to speak and understand someone's background, right? And show the empathy. But I think there's some sweet spaces. You talk about programs and creating some of these programs and even probably incorporating AI into a program where someone can learn that. Where are you guys on AI? Is that something that you guys are excited about that's probably going to help you maybe on the back end so much more than the front end?
You know, wow, that's a that's a big question with many facets to it. Um, uh, Using AI to help us do what we do is a good thing.
Hmm.
I also think that it, it it enables and can also stifle some creativity. So if we're asking somebody to think about a program or think about what's needed, yeah, they can use AI. What we have found sometimes is, um, even with lesson planning, I know this because I've been in the classroom. I know teachers are like, just give me a lesson plan. And I'm thinking, well, what do your kids need? That's
Yeah.
your first question, to just pull something off the shelf. There are some great teachers that will put that extra effort in, and you have to critically think about that. If you're just going to pop it into AI and pop something out, I really believe something's lost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think it enables some of that. And I think it's making its way down even for our students. Um, we have a scholarship program where there have been some kids that we've had some excellent recipients, and we've interviewed them, and so they really speak to what they've written, and can, can really jump off that platform and tell you more. There are others that you can tell didn't write. It's just they're truncated sentences, this, that, and the other. Um, I don't doubt that they need the money, but you got to think about what it is you need, and
Mhm.
so that's just moving down. It's just filtering down. I have a big concern as to what will happen. The biggest thing that I think that we take away from education is that our biggest role as educators is we, above anything else, we should be striving to create critical thinkers. And and when we fail to do that, um, we're no longer educating. AI can help. Uh, I'm just not sure how you manage it in a way, because there will always be individuals that we're human, right?
Mhm.
What's the shortcut? What's the easier way I can do this?
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you.
So,
Yeah, I was talking to some it was actually an early childhood organization, and we just talked about one, just we don't have enough teachers that have the passion and feel this is a purpose. Still some that think it's a job, and it's not, right? And even just calling them just teachers, these are educators. These are people that are really making impacts. I mean, you spend 8 9 hours a day sometimes with these teachers. Like there's so much more than just a teacher, and I do believe that when people get caught up on just finding the easy way out, they're going to lose the love for what it is. But I also think that if they do it right, you can do more of the things you love and less of the things you don't love, right? When we go to school to become teachers, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to teach. We want to be able to get in front of our kids, and I think yes, you will see that some people will start to take shortcuts, and I think you'll start to see those teachers that really love what they do continue to do what it is that they do. But now we have to find that balance, and it's funny that you say you can always tell, because I can always tell when someone uses AI as well, just the way that it comes across or the hyphens that are always used in ChatGPT. But no, man, I'm excited to see where AI continues to play a role when it comes to our schools. I know I right now in Florida, I am in one of the biggest districts I believe in the state of Florida, and they do not allow ChatGPT in their schools. So one time I went to the teachers and we had to do some work. I'm like, you guys are not using ChatGPT to make this easier, more efficient? They was like, we blocked that from our schools, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. The kids are still going to use it, right? So it's like teaching them how to use it to actually benefit them. I think is what we should be doing is educating them in that space, because they're still going to use it the same way we were told to never use a calculator because it's never going to be in our pockets.
mhm.
We've always used calculators. Now we have computers in our pockets. So it's like it's here. It's not going anywhere. How do we evolve with the time and make sure that we don't use it in the incorrect way? Because like anything could be done,
Yeah.
social media, the website, for great reasons we use it. Some people use it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Go ahead. You were going to say something, Robert?
No, I agree. I think, when you look at colleges now, I mean, um, I think it's killing writing. I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember which one it was, but they were interviewing students that one had graduated from Harvard, another at MIT. For the most part, they didn't write a paper. Now I don't doubt that they couldn't write, and here's my thought on that, because we've had this discussion. We have an AI committee here, and I gave my impassioned little 2 cents on what what I think about that. But we're getting back our own staff kind of, handing in things that's subpar. What I said was, everyone around this table, I don't doubt that, I don't doubt your writing. I've seen it, and I think you're all capable writers. So I don't have a problem with you using AI to improve already good writing. The problem comes when we already see people who we know whose writing could be better, and they're no longer thinking about how to write a good piece. They're just punching in the best prompts and seeing, I mean, how do you check for it? How do you know? And well, it looks good to me, better than anything I've ever written, so I'm going to submit it. And I think kids may be doing that too. And so what we lose is that critical piece. So I think as you go down the the line, it becomes more and more important that you have those basic skills.
I
Like,
do
I don't
agree.
think anyone would say that you shouldn't learn your times tables, even though we have a calculator. Um, uh,
When we think about critical thinking, right? That's your piece that you're mentioning. You definitely have to have some critical thinking, even when it comes to prompting a chat
sure.
GPT. So yeah, 100% important, because if you can't even think beyond, surface level, you're never really going to get good results out of a chat GPT, because it's only as good as what you put in. So if you're not thinking and getting creative, as you kind of mentioned, you're, talking to, yeah, 100% do agree that it's going to hinder people from reaching heights that they've wanted to, because they're holding themselves back. They're not trying to think on their own. So I do agree, man. I use ChatGPT, and it has to be critical thinking, because I use it and I see how other people use it, and it's very surface level compared to what I use it. Why? Because I'm thinking outside the box. So I'm just creative in general. So I see things a little different versus someone that is just thinking, oh, this is going to make me more creative, or this is going to make me more faster at what I do. But is it really helping you on the critical thinking when you put on the spot? Because ChatGPT is not going to be there all the time. What happens when you get put on the spot and you really got to think,
Right.
right? So nah, I hear where you're saying on that. You, Robert, Latino to Latino, man, like it's cool to see you in this space. Not a lot of leaders, one, and I just actually spoke to one earlier today, which is very surprising. And he's in the early childhood, but not a lot of males in general
Yeah.
are in this space when it comes to education, but I think are needed. I think from male to male, we need to see more guys in classrooms, more guys that are in the leadership roles when it comes to education. How important to you to have representation in education and in the nonprofit spaces?
The representation is, I mean, it's important to have our young men um, be role models for what's possible. You know,
Hmm.
to know that, to show that I like to learn, or that you don't just have to be there all the time, pumping your fist in the air, but that you can actually have a, a sensitive conversation about something. If somebody comes to you, especially another young boy, about something, and just listen to them without telling them what to do, and just being there for them. And we're sorely needed in this space. My whole focus has been equity in education, and a lot of my work has been on trying to provide resources for young women. And now that young women are on the upswing, the answer isn't to stop what we're doing. It's not a zero-sum game.
Hmm.
It's like we can't chew gum and walk at the same time. It's like we need to do this for all our kids. And
Yeah.
young boys have different needs than young girls. And what is it that we can do to sustain this level for our girls, to be strong women, to go out there, to be wage earners and captains of industry, and then have our boys do the same? Or even to say that it's okay that you want to be an artist, that you're not out there to conquer the world as a capitalist or something. Not,
Yeah.
nothing against business majors. I'm just saying that, that it's okay to do things that may not be seen as traditional.
Yeah.
for boys, um,
Yeah.
and support that. So
Having these conversations with my kids now, I have a 1 year and a 4 year old, and my daughter loves to say, "I want to do this because boys can't do it," or "I've never seen a girl do this." Right when she starts to see a girl in a space that she's never seen a girl, and we easily say boys and girls can do whatever they want. One day you want to do ballerina so bad, one day you see a boy doing ballerina, but we don't judge him. That's what he wants to do, and we do have to be in a space where we allow people to be themselves more than anything, right? We live in a society, especially with social media, where someone wants to be the next person they see, but it's like, how do you tap into what you love, to the things that bring you peace, the things that are really purposeful? You know, I know you said no shade on those business majors. That was me. I am the business major, right? But to me, to
that's not
me,
what I was
man,
saying.
I only took up business, to be quite frank. Like, I took up business because I was already running a store at 19, 20 years old. But hands-on experience to me taught me way more than I actually learned when I went to school, to be quite frank. But what I've also learned in the business side and just having a business mindset, I now am in the nonprofit and realizing that even a nonprofit is a business. While some may think that, nonprofit means no money and whatever their myths are, it is not true. We just serve two different boards. The ways that we spend our monies are is a little different. But I think that having that business mindset is what allows people to also be great leaders in the nonprofit space.
Mhm.
Because I think when I see people that you have a business mindset, right? Because you've been in business and you've seen how to scale. You have this business mindset. Not that you were a major in it, but you still understood that you had to have a business mind to do what you do in the nonprofit world and to make the impact that you're making, building relationships and all these different things that I think come from the business world, man. And just to see leaders again, like I mentioned, like yourself, a Latino, it's cool. I don't. How many Latinos do you see in a leadership role, Robert? Can you name at least two off the top of your head? Maybe you can. Maybe I can.
Well, I'm in
I can.
California, so probably a little easier than if I were.
Yeah, I was about to say it is a little easier. No, man, it is cool. But even in the education role, I think it's so needed, man. I wish I would have had, going through school, I didn't have male figures in my high schools that were having man-to-man conversations with me. Especially I didn't have a dad. I didn't have a male figure in my home. So how good would it have been to have someone that just male to male understands the way that we think, the way that we operate, right? I didn't have that, which is why I show up to be really what I wish I had. And I'm pretty sure that's why, but you also go back into your community to be what you wish you had as you grew up in the communities. And you're doing an amazing job, man. I mean, working with the underserved, communities as well. What's your personal vision for resilience and education access in the next decade? Because I can imagine that you have a whole agenda that you're trying to put together.
I think the biggest thing that we need to do is to be able to provide is really provide resources. It's not about an equality issue when it comes down to resources. You can give me the same amount of things that you might give somebody in Pacific Palisades on the west side, but that's not going to cut it because they're probably ahead of the game in terms of their experiences, their resources, things that they've had. Our communities need more just to get up to the starting line, and
Yeah.
and so it's really just trying to be more equitable in terms of the resources that are given to the communities that we serve. Number one, and number two, you know, that's up and down the line. Paying teachers what they deserve, and then providing them with the things that they need to do the things they need to do to get these kids from point A to point B. And then the second thing is to be able to to provide a model where we can actually train more individuals, and we do need more male teachers. And um, I, I would argue, you know, more male teachers at the entry level positions,
Yeah.
you know, and it would really be where we need them the most. Um,
I agree.
if you look at there's some data that shows that um, for the number of men in education, there are a lot more that kind of make their way to the top and are running districts, and that almost kind of like fits the paternal model of like, oh well, okay, the doors are open for the guys. What we
Hmm.
really need is to have men in front of these kids, and 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 I'm not saying that we shouldn't have male superintendents or principals. We absolutely do, but that we need more of them in the classroom, in front of these kids, um, teaching them good things as well
I
as what's
agree,
in
man.
these books.
I agree. And as we start wrapping this up, because we could do this forever and just talk about this, but I appreciate your time and I want to respect your time. Before we get to the blind question, man, if you could leave every listener with one lesson about turning pain into purpose, pretty much what you've done your whole life, what would it be?
You know, I think I was thinking about something you had said earlier, and everything I wound up doing was everything I kind of gravitated to, which I guess is what I loved, what I realized I loved. Like, I think I would have been miserable as a lawyer. And I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe not. But to trade in the experiences that I've had. So I think you gotta stay true to what your love is, and that love kind of insulates you from the hardships that you're going to feel along the way, because that's just life, right? But as long as you have that love and you have people around you to kind of support you in that, that's going to really help.
Robert, I always say that, especially in your line of work, lawyer would have been a great paycheck, but you chose purpose and passion. And if when we start to really think about that, we can have all the money in the world, man. But if your cup's not filled, if you're not happy, does it really matter? And I think you're in a space where maybe the paycheck's is not the best, but when you get to see kids that never had an opportunity or a chance get that chance because of what you guys are doing at your organization, like that is so much more than the value of a dollar, right? Because they take that for life. I'm a big believer that even like now, I'm in the nonprofit space with my old high school, and we hand out these scholarships, and I think that's great. But a $1,500 scholarship will go just like this. But when you can make an impact, a conversation, having a leader that represents them, or their upbringing, that impact is made forever. I remember conversations with some of my educators, and I'm 35 years old, and that means high school for me was 20 plus years ago, almost. So sitting here and thinking about that, man, you chose what was right for you, what was really filling your cup. Maybe I think, yeah, you would amazingly brid lawyer, right? You would have been an amazing lawyer. However, God had a different plan for you as well. So many times we have a plan, and then God comes in and says, "Wait a minute, let me show you this plan. This is the plan that I really have for you." So I'm actually glad that you stuck with this plan, and here you are today. And I ask you for that blind question, man. You spent your life teaching resilience as we've gone through this whole conversation. What's that one lesson your students taught you though that you've never expected? Because as much as we give and give and give, we're also learning from these younger kids that are coming through the pipeline.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is humility. Um, yeah, I had lunch with. They organized this lunch. It was, hey, there was about a dozen of the former students from the class of '87, and um, yeah, the things they shared. You say you remember things about. We do that with our staff. When we train new people, think about one person that they may never know. And I sat around that table. We're all having adult beverages, and and they would bring things up, and I thought, just I would think like, oh my God, I didn't know that. They go, oh yeah, that made a big impact on me. I thought, wow,
Yeah.
and the humility part comes like you really need to be mindful about what we tell our kids, because I was talking to a friend of mine who was a principal at a high school. He goes, "What I dread one day is having a kid come in." He goes, "You're the worst teacher." For whatever reason, he goes, and I would never have known because it was never intentional. But maybe, and I would imagine maybe just people felt like either you didn't pay enough attention or this, that, or the other. So humility.
It's funny you say that because I've actually on the opposite end. I was the troublemaker at school. I was the class clown. I was the knucklehead, and I seen a teacher 10 plus years after. And when he was my teacher, it was his first year ever teaching. And me and my best friend to this day, life was lifing for us, man. And so we went to school and we acted out. And, you put us in classrooms together, you had to put us in two sides of the room because that's how bad it used to get. Even though we were best friends, that's just who we were. And I seen him and he's like, Efrain, I'm like, Mr. Chambers? And he's like, you're the guy that made me quit teaching. I said, what? Like, just imagine. He says, bro, you were so bad. And realizing he was 20 something years old. I didn't, when you're 16 and you see this guy, he just graduated college. Now he's a lawyer, so he kind of diverse of you. He realized that school wasn't for him. He decided to be a lawyer. So I don't know. Kudos to you to sticking it out. But you just don't know how someone sees things. And I had no ill intention. That was never my intention, right, to make him quit. Life was lifing. But I also believe that if he understood how to work with those type of kids, right? He didn't come from this community, so he didn't have an understanding. But if he was also educated enough to understand, hey, let's not just automatically picture them as a troublemaker. Let's figure out what's actually the root of all cause, right? It could be this person didn't eat yesterday. It could be, in my case, I was being sexually abused at home. There were so many factors of why I was almost kind of screaming for help. But people made it seem like if I was just this person that didn't care. And I did. I definitely did care. And I love what you say in the sense of, being very mindful of what we say to our kids as well. Because I just met a friend. I haven't seen him in 10 plus years. And he says, Efrain, I remember when you hired me and what you told me the day that you hired me. Robert, that was 15 years ago. People, you can either take someone up or you can bring somebody down by the words that we share. And we got to make sure that we're always leveling someone up and being very mindful of the words that we use. Even one thing I noticed, Robert, even with you just talking today, you're very mindful of your words. Like, you don't just say whatever. You'll sit here and you'll think, and then you'll say. And a lot of people don't do that. We just speak whenever really thinking about the person that we're talking to and what they need at that moment. And you, for sure, I've seen that through this whole conversation, that you thought on what was that you wanted to say for the right reasons. So I appreciate that from you as well.
I appreciate that statement. And even with that, I will manage to step on some flowers here and there. So not on purpose. And by the way, I didn't mean to throw shade on lawyers at all, but
hey man, there's also some good lawyers that I've seen that have left being a lawyer to become to be in the nonprofit space. And they always say, I wish I would have done this sooner.
I went to grad school in education with a guy who was a lawyer and then became a teacher, and then he became a principal, and now he teaches at I saw him on the website at USC School of Ed.
Wow.
So
yeah, man.
yeah.
See, look at it.
This was his
You
calling.
chose the right career path.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, where can people find more of the organization? What's the website? I think learnla.org you mentioned earlier. You guys on different social medias.
Yeah, learnla.org, and you can click that on, and it gives you an overview of everything we do and who we serve and some of an idea, a smattering of what our programming is about, and you can leave a comment in there, and or if you're in the California area, you can come and volunteer, or
Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time. And for you guys that are still watching, make sure that you guys continue to share, comment, and like, and allow people to get into this conversation, the conversation that we need to have more of when we think about our educators and our future, because it's not about us. As adults, we want to make sure that the next generation is fed with positivity, with love, that we show them resilience, that we share with them confidence, all these different things that we lacked when we were young. We want to make sure that our kids don't lack these things. And Robert's making sure the same thing, and has been doing the same thing for 20 plus years. So we thank Robert for being the individual and the leader that he is. Guys, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you guys do so. I'm Efrain. This is Robert. Catch you on the next one.
Good
Later.
news.